here in front of us. High five, Seb. That's so cool. I'm so excited. I love it when we find things after tracking. It always makes me so much happier. And there our gamble paid off just to come into the block and have a look because, well, you can see they weren't very far off the road actually, and we would have done lots of circles around trying to find them had we not just come this way. So that's so cool. Hello, girls. Sorry, Meg, I got a bit distracted by seeing the lions, but it looks like just 3 females. It doesn't... Oh, here the cubs are. Hey, guys. So I think the Birminghams are slowly starting to expand, given that they have not actually been down to Londo's before, and they're starting to spend more and more time in that area. Now, you can see Aubrey's here as well. He came from the southern side, and we literally just bumped into these lions at the exact same time. So as I saw them, he saw them, and that's why he's also here, because he came from the southern side just to see if they hadn't gone more towards Vubu Gallagher area. But there we go, Nkuhuma Pride, and it looks like they're going to start getting moving. Shame, and there's one female that's got badly injured on her back. Look at that. Zeb. That one? No, to the right. You see the one standing up there? She's got lots of new cuts all over her back. There, that one there on the left. So she's got a big fresh wound on around the tail area, and it looks like one on her leg as well. So I don't know who they've run into recently, but there's definitely a few signs. And we know that they went down towards Londolozi, and I wonder if they didn't have a little run-in with somebody else down there. But that's the same female that had that big cut the other day on the inside of her leg, which looks like it's been opened up again. And so interesting to see. Now, in terms of cubs, I can see at the moment only the 2 lying closest to me. And then I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 adult lionesses at this stage. But there are some more cubs behind this bush that I'm just battling to actually see at this stage. So it seems like everybody's there.
Yeah, there's cubs here.
There's more cubs there at the back that are just tucked in behind the tree. So I think we've pretty much got most of the pride here. What is very evident is that they are looking quite skinny, all of them, so a meal would be a good thing for them. And it just shows you how quickly they digest and process food. We know we saw them on a zebra kill on, when was it, Thursday last week, so that's not that long ago. And already they're much skinnier than when the last time we saw them. They've sort of digested all of that food very quickly, and they've travelled a long distance, so they would have burnt quite a bit of energy by going all the way down towards Londolozi and back, and that's why they're looking a little bit on the skinny side. So I think these lionesses are going to be very much looking for food this afternoon, that's for sure. They're going to try and get out and try and see if they can't find anything. And even this morning, it's cool enough this morning to allow them to actually start moving around. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see it. The cubs look as though they're not going anywhere. They're all tucked up in tight little balls and are not interested in really making their way anywhere at this stage. But the females are alert. One female still standing up at the far end there, but right in the thickest. I can just see her ears. And then the rest of them have got heads up, but are still resting quite a bit. Seb, I think I'm going to just change our position a little bit and just see if we can't get a sort of better view of the actual pride itself. Now, isn't this cool though? So good to see the Nkuhumas. I love when we get to find them. They're such a cool pride, and generally are quite active actually. I've been very fortunate while I've been here that the Nkuhuma Pride has seemed to be a lot more active than some of the other prides that I've followed, and particularly the Birmingham boys, who tend to just really sleep most of the time. So there is one lioness that is just slowly moving off, and I'm going to try and keep up with her because I reckon the rest of the pride is slowly but surely going to follow her. You can see them all lying here, so they're all on our left hand side, but I'm going to go down to this female that's moving, and then, like I say, hopefully the rest are going to start to follow. You can see her just moving off just in front of me here, so she's cutting across, and you can see what I mean about them being a little bit on the skinny side. They're not bad, but it would definitely could do with the meal. Simranjit, you're wondering if a lion's home range depends on certain factors. Well, there's 2 things. Firstly, lions don't really have a home range. They have a territory which they actively defend. A home range, it basically describes an area which animals will move around in loosely. They don't defend it, they don't have a territory, and they don't really look after it. And so that's the difference between a territory and a home range. The Nkuhuma Pride's territory is set up, and they will then try and defend it against others, and it will only move and shift and flow if there's sort of space for them to do that, and if there is a reason for it. In terms of what determines that territory, one is its density of other lions. So other lions that are in the area that will be either less sort of weaker or stronger will dictate whether they gain or lose ground. That's also, and then it's prey animals as well as resources like water. And so you'll find most prides will try and set up around a area with a healthy water source that is pretty permanent, and then as time goes on, if it gets to drought areas, then you'll find there's a bit more movement within those lions. But generally there's a high density like there is in this part of the world, then the lions can't move too much even when there's a drought, and they become either then less successful or more successful if they're able to either survive it or unfortunately not. Now, where has she gone? I don't see the rest of the pride. Yeah, comes the rest of the pride. They're just on our left, starting to move now, Seb. So it looks like the rest of them are starting to come down, and I would imagine if they're going to start moving, then the cubs will start coming as well. So Alex, you're 12 years old and you're a new viewer. Hello Alex, and welcome to the largest safari vehicle in the world, and I hope you're going to love spending time with us and ask lots of questions. And you want to know how long these cubs are going to stay with their moms. Well, the cubs will normally stay, if they're females, for the rest of their life. They will stay with the pride, they'll join the pride and become one with them, and they'll just become part of the pride itself. So they're never going to leave their mothers, really. If they're a boy lion, well, then they're going to unfortunately be chased off by the big daddy lions, and so they're going to end up being pushed out, and unfortunately will probably leave at around 3.5 to 4 years old, depending on how tolerant the male is. If he doesn't mind the cubs too much, then he'll sometimes let it slide to about 4 years, but most of the time it's between sort of 3 and 3.5 that they then get pushed out and have to go and fend for themselves, whereas the females will spend time doing their thing. Now you can see it is very thick in here. It is still misty, and so not easy to see where our lions are going. They look as though they might settle down again in that little thicket. I was hoping that they were going to come down. I see this lioness in front of me is now starting to walk again. She's also seems to be on some sort of a mission of her own. I wonder where she's off to. Let's see. The problem is that she's heading north again, which is not what I wanted. I was hoping she was going to head south, but it seems like she's heading north, and this is pretty typical of the pride's movements this morning. They seem to be doing this kind of movement the whole morning, where they're just going back and forth and back and forth. And I don't know if maybe either they're looking for somebody or they're trying to find prey items inside these areas. But here comes another lioness. Oh, she is beautiful. Look at that. Is that not just the most wonderful thing? Seb, I'm going to try go forward a bit for you because that branch is in your way. Hopefully she's going to come through. But look at that in that golden morning light. Is that not wonderful? Absolutely amazing. And look at the size of these guys as they come past the car. They are massive. Even for females, the Nkuhuma Pride are really, really big girls. And you can see the one female wants to go. She keeps stopping and looking behind her and hoping that the rest are following. Now there is another lioness that's just stopped and looked from behind her. She's in the long grass and slowly is coming now, and actually there come the rest of them. They're one by one starting to file down towards us. So we've seen 2 adult lionesses, and here comes another 2. So, Michael, you're wondering if any of the other lionesses have wounds. Not that I can see, Michael. It looks like all the rest are pretty okay. Now, this is the female that's got the cataract, or that eye that is deteriorating. So she's also here, and she looks as though she's absolutely fine with no visible sort of bite marks or anything like that. So they look okay. Now, let's see. The next female coming, is this the one with the wounds on her? I think that might be Amber Eyes that's now coming at the back there. It could be her. I can't see nicely if it is. Hopefully she'll look this way and I'll be able to see. Are you going to look at us? Okay, there we go. So there's Amber Eyes. She's also here and is looking around and is looking as healthy as ever. So she's got no visible scarring on her. So these first 4 females, none of it. And there's just the one female that's got that scarring. And I wonder, some part of me thinks that maybe, just maybe, that female that's got all the wounds might have been the mother of that cub, and maybe, just maybe, tried to defend that cub in some situation, and that's why she's got hurt. The rest of them look all absolutely fine. There's no sort of scarring on them. We can see that Amber Eyes doesn't look as though she's got swollen teats. I'm not sure. So, Karen, you're wondering if they could be hurt by trying to get a kill. Well, Karen, it's possible that that could have happened, but I don't think so. I think the Nkuhuma Pride, the only time they would try and get a kill would be if it's from maybe a leopard. It's very seldom you'll find lions will try and steal from other lions, unless it's a pride of 5 like this going after one female maybe. You'll find that generally they are pretty wary of other prides on a kill, and if it's males on a kill, then well, no, not at all. They're not going to go anywhere near it. We saw last week when they were on that kill with Tinyo, how he was so dominant over that carcass. He pushed these lionesses away all the time, and he was really dominant over it, and a lot of threat displays, a lot of growling to try and ward them off. And so the females back down very quickly. The cubs are a little bit more cheeky, but the females themselves back down very fast. Just going forward here. Oh. Now, excuse me if I'm sniffling a little bit. It was really cold this morning, so the nose was running a little bit. So, dear watcher, you're asking whether the injuries could be from mating. Well, while that is a possibility, I don't think so. Given the reason why, and this is why I'll say this, is because if we look on the neck area of that injured lioness, she's got no sort of signs of bite marks on her neck, which is very common when mating. When they mate, the male will clamp down on the back of the neck and bite, and that causes a bit of loss of fur, which we don't see. Well, I haven't seen on that lioness with the injuries. It looks more like she was grabbed by the tail area and she was bitten on the tail and on the back leg, and that's what it looks like. Now, I think this is her coming along now, Seb, so let's have a look. Is this you, girl? It's difficult to see now where they're all going because they're all splitting into different directions, but I think this might be her. Yes, this is her with the wound. So you see on her back there, she doesn't have too much. It's on the inside of her leg and then one around the tail that has a bad wound there. So there you can see that big hole in her back. Now that's just from a tooth. That's plain and simple. That's what a tooth wound looks like. And while it looks really bad and really painful, and I'm sure it is a little bit painful, it will heal. That's nothing that we need to worry about too much. We know Mfumo had that big hole in his face, which was much worse than what you see on that tail. And his face would have been a place where there would have been lots of meat and all kinds of rotting stuff going into it, whereas her tail is going to be a little bit cleaner in terms of that, and she'll be able to groom it a lot more effectively than what Mfumo was able to groom his face. And so that wound, while it looks really bad, should heal up just fine, and she should be alright. The way she's walking is 100%. She was walking in front of me and there was no issues. Now it looks like they're actually going into stalk mode. You see this female here? She's changed her whole body language. She's now dropping a little bit lower, and I wonder if they haven't spotted something here. The body language of these lions is of one of that they've seen something, and they are now in hunting mode. They're all going a little bit more gingerly. They're all sort of standing up. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right in the distance. They're all here. And let's see if she's going to lie down. She's going to sit down there and watch what's going to go on. Now, there's another lioness just into the front of her, and then the other 3 are all lined up straight behind this lioness. So there we go. And you can see they're definitely a lot more intent in what's going on. So, Pete, you're wondering if cats do all their hunting at night? Well, no. So, cheetah actually do most of their hunting during the day. Oh, hello, little cub. Where did you come from? And the lions actually, at any stage, they're opportunistic. So, as soon as there's any sign of food, they'll take it. So lions will hunt day and night, and same with leopard. I've seen leopards hunting at 12 o'clock midday in 42 degrees heat or 120 degree Fahrenheit, no problem. So they hunt at any time as long as the opportunity presents itself. But in saying that, the heightened level or period of activity for them to hunt is normally just after dusk and just before dawn. That's when they really start to concentrate on hunting. Hello, little one. Are you tired? Do you not want to be dragged around anymore? And the rest of them are slowly filtering through from the back as well. There they come. So HA, you're wondering if any of the cubs utilize the vehicle during a hunt. HA, I'm not sure. Oh, look at that, isn't that amazing? Just loving seeing these little cubs getting so big. It really is cool. In terms of utilizing the vehicles for hunting, I haven't seen the cubs do that. To be honest, I think they're still too small to participate in hunt, and I haven't seen them come anywhere near the car. The last time I saw the Nkuhuma was trying to chase that leopard, all the cubs just lay down. And the good news is that all 6 are here. I can see now in this line, we've got 1 in front, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 6th one right at the back. So all 6 are here, all 6 are healthy, but no sign of that little cub at all. So I wonder, I don't know if that little cub is still with us, to be honest. The fact of the matter is these Nkuhumas, none of them that we've watched coming past seem to be producing milk, and it just doesn't look like it at all. Now this little cub, it seems as though they've had a swat on the nose, this one in front. She's got a nice little scar across the muzzle. There we go. So you can just see it there. So it seems like they've had a run-in somewhere with somebody, and I wonder if that's maybe why they're not back in this area. This is so cool, just having them filing past us one by one. Wow, what a way to be starting the day, and especially to be coming back onto Djuma after a day off. Isn't this a fantastic way? Seb, are you happy?
I'm so excited.
Seb's happy too. Now, I think Ali might put me back on the couch again tonight, because she told me this morning if she didn't see wild dogs, she wanted to try find lions, and well, here they are. So hopefully they don't go north. Hopefully they'll still be around and she can come and see them this afternoon. But yes, she might put me back on the couch for finding lions. She loves lions, and well, it's hard not to love them when you have a situation like this and they're all just kind of filing past. But the females are on and off again and going further, so I'm going to try and just catch up with them. So Gillian, you're wondering why the big cats never walk with their tails straight up. Well, most of the cats that are out here in the wild don't do that. And the reason why is that a tail is very tall and generally has a bright marking towards the end of it. And that means that it gets seen by everything. And so when the big cats are walking, they want to try and keep that tail as low as possible to not give themselves away. So in the case of the lions, that black tip contrasts against the grass heavily, and prey animals are going to be able to spot that quite quickly. And so that's why they try and keep it down. In case of a leopard, they've got that very white tip to the tail, and the white tip of the tail is not going to be very good for when hunting. Now, like I said, the rest of the pride is moving off, so I'm going to try and catch up with them and see where they go, because they're going into a horrible area, and so hopefully we'll be able to get to where they are before they disappear. And while we do that, let's go across to Ali and see how her leopard tracking is going and whether or not she's had any luck with any animals at all. Well, our lions are just sitting, and you can see the cubs are watching the adults. The adults are walking down the road, and it looks like they're going to go into the impenetrable fortress that is on the right-hand side here. They keep staring in there, and earlier when I drove past here, there was a nyala down here, so I wonder if they're not stalking a nyala that's inside. But if they go into there, it's going to be impossible for us. We will not be able to get in there with them and be able to follow them at all. So hopefully they just walk parallel with it. But you can see Amber Eyes, look at how she's getting low to the ground. She's slinking along. And look how fast she walks. She's always on a mission, Amber Eyes. She seems to always be getting up to something. And she's the last one. All the other lionesses have already gone in that direction and have moved off into that thicket. So I'm going to try and just catch up with them. The cubs have all laid down as though they can see now that the adults are serious about something. And so hopefully they'll just stay there for now and bring the lionesses back to them just now. Let's see. So there's one lioness lying over there. Now Mita, who's 8 years old. Mita, you want to know how many of the cubs are male and how many of them are female? Mita, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. Every time I see the Nkuhuma Pride, I get so excited I forget to actually sex them. So some of you out there might know and can help myself and Mita out and let us know how many you think. But I think it's 5 females and 1 male, but I could be wrong. There might be 2 males, but there's definitely 1 little boy inside there, and the rest, there's quite a few females as well. So I think it's either 4 and 2 or 5 and 1. But I'm sure some of you out there may be able to help us. Like I say, I always just get so into the fact that I'm seeing the Nkuhuma Pride that I forget to actually sex them meter. So it's my fault, and hopefully we will be able to sort of count them today. Maybe today is the day that we make 100% sure, and you can help me do it when the little cubs come past us, if they do. Now you can see this is the lioness with the little hole on her tail, and the one that's battling a little bit in terms of that wound. Now I think Abel wants to get past me, so I'm just going to move quickly, Seb, to let him pass us. Thanks, Abel. I mean Aubrey, not Abel. Aubrey, sorry. I said Abel, but I meant Aubrey. I don't know why I said Abel. For some reason my mind is not working the way it should be. So Ranjit from India, you wanted to know if there's any way that you can age a male or female lion. Well, it depends. I mean, it's not easy, and it's a rough estimate that you can make given their size, the yellowing of their teeth, the color of their nose can sometimes be an indication, not always, but sometimes. So it just depends on those factors. But with males, also size of the mane, size of the body can help you in determining what the lion's age is. But it's not exact science, and I've seen lions with very small manes that are actually quite old and with very, very, very pink noses, and so you can't always use those. But generally, if you look at the sort of coloration of the teeth, the more yellow the teeth are, the older that lion or lioness is. And then also mane size does help with that, size of the body, ear condition of the ears, color of the nose. All of those linked together can give you a fairly good indication of how old a individual is, and like I say, it's a rough estimate. Now we're going to stay with our Nkuhuma Pride for as long as they'll allow us, because I don't think we're going to be able to follow them for the next, I would say, 10 minutes if they start moving, because this thicket on our left hand side is literally impenetrable. And so while we do that, let's go across to Ali, who I believe has got 3 of the most beautiful raptors anyone could wish to see. Indeed we have. We've gotten lucky that they've come straight out of this riverbed and out and into the open again. So really fortunate for us, and hopefully they're going to lead us to where the females are, because this is all little cubs that we've got here, and they're walking slowly but surely sort of in a westerly direction, and I'm hoping that if we just keep up with them, we'll be able to find the females as well. But they were very kind to us that they came out of this horrible drainage system, because otherwise we would never have been able to keep up with them. It would have been almost impossible to follow them in those thickets, and so I'm super glad that they have come out. Let's see, how am I going to negotiate this from here now? This is the problem. This area is not friendly. Herbie and I walked around here the other day, and he was showing me a few of the pathways to use to try and negotiate this area. But even he was saying that it's really tough to be able to find ways through here, and it eventually kind of takes you out towards Gallagher's shortcuts or even Gallagher Pan. But to get to there from here is an absolute mess and tangle of drainage systems and trees and thickets, and not easy at all. While it's perfect for the lions to move around in, not great for us to try and negotiate with a car. Now all of our cubs are just here on the right hand side. I don't know where the females are. I've had no sight of them. It's just the little cubbies that are sitting here in the sunshine, and I think they're trying to work out where moms have gone as well. They were watching, and I'm sure they've seen where they are, and they also have very sensitive noses, which means they would be able to probably smell where all the moms are and aunties are, and they'll then go that way. So Roshni, you say the cubs still have their spots. When does it fade? Well, Roshni, even some of the adults will retain their spots, particularly on the legs and the tummy. It just gets very, very faint, but they already are much less spottier than what they were when they were born. Their spots are starting to fade, and if you look at the younger one in front, if its legs, it's difficult because it's moving quite quickly, but the youngest one and the smallest one's spots are quite evident, whereas the other ones are slowly starting to fade now, and by the time they reach adults 3-4 years old, then those spots will be very faded and very difficult to actually see. Right, where are you guys going to go from here? there's definitely one that leads this group. It's quite interesting to watch. It almost looks like the young male. I can't see nicely, but there's definitely one that goes in front all the time, and the rest of them watch and follow that young cub. So even in this little group, there's almost like a leader that is developed amongst them and leads them around and shows them the ways that they need to move. Now you can hear Franklin that's busy alarm calling, and so the lions are all stopping just to watch and see maybe that's mom in front that they need to worry about. And so you can see that instinct is there already when an alarm call starts, to stop and to listen and to take note of what is going on. Now, we don't need our windscreen wipers on. For a second there we had the windscreen wipers on, and we definitely don't need those two lights on, so let's get rid of those. Seb, are you ready to get a couple thorn trees thrown our way? Yeah, it's time for a real bundu bashing session. And I think we've interrupted somebody going to the loo as well. There we go. So there's one of our beautiful cubs just going for a little wee. And isn't that nice in that golden morning light? So good to see them. So, Michael, you're wondering if the absence of the Birmingham boys is affecting the Nkuhumas. Well, there's not really an absence of Birmingham boys. Just because we're not seeing them every day on the drives does not mean that they're not around. They actually are around. They're patrolling heavily, in fact, far more than they used to, which is only a good thing. It means that they're keeping other male lions at bay. So the Birminghams are still around. We know we saw Tinyo with the Nkuhumas the last time we saw them, and he was with them for about 3 days. So they are still with the Birminghams, and the Birminghams are around. It's just that we haven't been seeing them here. They tend to keep crossing over our area much quicker, and so they are in Manuleti, they're in the west, they're on the south of Djuma, and that means that they're protecting it from everywhere. So no, I don't think it's affecting them too much at all. I think they're just fine on their own, and they are a successful bunch of females, so they'll be able to make the kills that they need to survive as well. Right, let's see if I can't get through. Seb, this is going to be very thick. I don't quite know how we're going to do this. The good thing is, though, is that I spotted a lioness in the distance as well, so that's good news. Now, hopefully we'll be able to get through all of this rubbish and get to where these lions actually are. Oof. I think we're going to have to go around this part here and find ourselves another way through, because that's not going to work there, I don't think. Maybe through there. So now I'm trying to just reposition myself and get myself through this horrible stuff that we're trying to negotiate at the moment. And while I do that, let's go back to Ali and see how her leopard search is going and whether or not her battaliers have sent her in the right direction. Well, we've at least caught up with the females now. It's not easy going in here at all, but at least we've got the back end of the adult lionesses. So this is the female with the puncture wound on her bum, and it looks like the young female. When I saw her walking past just now, it seemed like it was her. Can't be 100% sure, but it does look like her. I'll try and get a proper ID as she comes past, but the rest of them are just in front to the left a little bit of where she is, and they're all sort of staring into the distance. I don't know if they're busy trying to hunt something and are looking around and trying to see if they can't just get into a better position to stalk, but there we go. You can see the other lioness way in the distance there. And look at how amazing that camouflage is. If she lies down from here to there, we won't see her at all. She'll be almost invisible to us. And I don't know what they're looking at, but they're definitely seeing something, because they keep moving a little bit, stopping and listening, moving a little bit, stopping and listening. So I think they've picked up something. So James, the cubs, I don't know, I'm sure they can kill things like francolins and guinea fowl and lizards and varying other small things like that. I think they would be more than capable of doing so. Whether or not they are is anyone's guess, but they definitely are capable of killing smaller stuff. At the end of the day, those cubs are the size, if not bigger, of Hasana and Shungile, and we know that both of them are surviving just fine. I think the thing is that the moms are still providing so heavily for them, and that lions, tend to target much larger animals, that the cubs aren't practicing nearly as much as what maybe Hasana and Shungile used to practice, and so they're not killing anything like what those two are yet, but they are going to start taking more and more notice of what's going on. And you'll find in the days when they're sort of resting, if something comes past, then the cubs will chase things, and particularly if the pride is on the move and they see a lizard or varying other things, you might find that they'll then go after them, but definitely not hunting big animals yet, or even remotely looking like they want to. Every time there's a prey animal, they just lie down and they wait for the moms to take over, and they're taking visual cues from the adult lionesses, not from, just their own initiative at this stage. It will change in the next year to come, but at this stage, it's still females only, and they then kind of fill in when they have to.
Tristan,
yep.
We need to get this shot. Look at them behind us.
Let me just try and reposition. Seb's noticed something very cool behind us, so I'm just going to try and turn quickly. Sorry, Seb. Thank you for showing me that. There we go. How cool is that, guys? So Seb's going to show you now, but all of our naughty little cubs that are part of the Nkuhuma Pride are waiting patiently on a termite mound. Isn't that cool? So there they all are. You can see they're just watching, and they're learning from this. They're seeing that the females are giving a very visible clue. How cool is that? So, dear watcher, you're wondering if the cubs will get names. Well, in all likelihood, no. When it comes to lions, the pride is what gets the name. It's very seldom that you have a situation that the actual animals are named, other than the male lions that form part of a coalition, which is more just sort of a general thing, because the males tend to spend a lot of time on their own. Just easier to refer to them as individuals rather than the pride. The pride system, it's very seldom that we see them broken up too much. You might find a female here, a female there when they're pregnant, but we don't name all the Nkuhuma females. It's only the one that's got amber eyes that has gotten a sort of nickname, if you want to call it that, more than anything else. And so I don't think the cubs will be named unless, there's a male that ends up breaking off and going off on his own, but he would then probably just be referred to as the Nkuhuma male, and very seldom do they actually get their own names. When it comes to a coalition, so something like the Birminghams, the reason why each one, like I say, got an individual name is because you can't call them all Birmingham male, and if they are not together, then at least there's a way of sort of differentiating the two. Now you can see this one in front looks like the young male. Look at how bulky he is. Almost looks like he's got a bigger head, and let's see, yep, there are the little testes at the back, I think. I saw those there. Difficult to say, but it looked like there was testes at the back there. It just looks like it's got a very bulky muzzle area in comparison to the others, and always the one in front. It seems to be moving quite a bit whenever the lionesses move, so this little cub moves as well. And the other cubs seem to follow behind this little one. Now, are you a boy or not? So there we go, 5 females, 1 male from a lot of you, so thank you for that. It's what I suspected, and I'm sure that's the male that was walking off to the side. This looks like a little female that's coming past, and so it's going to be very tough for that one male. Unfortunately, he's going to have a real tough time of it. If he doesn't have any siblings or coalition members, being a single male in this particular area is very, very, very difficult. Unfortunately, a lot of threats that are going to be not working in your favor in any way whatsoever. They're going to have a situation where they're going to have to try and defend themselves against big coalitions like the Birmingham Boys, which, as we know, is a very difficult task. And so it's going to be a tough life ahead for that young male, and the chances of survival in that young male is very, very low because of that situation. But aren't they beautiful? They're still looking in great condition, these little cubs, even though, they haven't had a meal in probably the last few days. They still look really, really good. You can hear the Franklin's alarm calling at them a little bit. Are you the little boy or are you a girl? Let's see now when you come past me. No, you're going to lie down there, so I can't see. Oh well, that's okay. There is something special, though, about being surrounded by the Nkuhuma Pride. They are amazing. So, Stephen, you're wondering how the lion's hunting tactics change according to prey. Well, I mean, that's something that we don't really know 100% as to how they do it. We know that a lot of the lions in these areas actually will target certain types of prey that they've learned to hunt when they were cubs. So you'll find that sometimes a situation where you'll get them hunting mostly buffalo, and that will mean that they learn the technique to hunt buffalo more than anything else, and they'll then very seldom actually go after other things. But what we do see with them is that, especially things that are faster moving, is that they try and do a more of an encircle kind of hunting technique, where they'll try and get one to be on the one side, and they then chase that animal towards one another. That gives them a chance to be able to grab that animal before it gets up to full speed and then gets away from them. Whereas things like buffalo, they tend to, the pride just all comes from one direction, and they try and just corner that buffalo and then play a game of sort of wearing it down rather than actually trying to stalk it and then getting to a point where they jump onto the throat and suffocate it immediately. So a little bit different for the smaller animals as opposed to the bigger ones, but essentially the same sort of technique applies, is to use everybody and try and use them to then encircle whatever prey animal they've got. Now, our cubs are slowly but surely filtering down the termite mound and heading towards where we are, and they're lying down. Females are lying down. There's only one female that I can see standing up. The other three females I can't see at the moment. I don't know where they've ended up and whether or not they're somewhere in front of us. But our female with the punctured backside, she doesn't look as though she's in any mood to hunt, and looks as though this is where she wants to rest for the day. And, well, the cubs are sort of creeping around us as well. Hello, little one. There we go. Are you going to go up the tree? No, just around. How cool is this? We're being surrounded by these ferocious little cubs. So, Francis from Israel, you want to know whether mange is a big problem here. Well, last year it was. So mange is, for those of you who don't know, is a mite that manifests itself and gets onto the coats of these animals, and it basically causes them to itch very, very badly, and they then scratch themselves. Hello, little one. You can see it right here. It's so cool. And they scratch themselves to the point where they get these big open scabs, and they lose their fur on their coats, and it becomes really quite difficult for them to actually hydrate. The mites end up taking a lot of the moisture from them, and they dehydrate very, very quickly, and they can then die from it. And so last year during the drought, mites thrive in those drier conditions, and so during the drought we had a massive outbreak of mange in this area, and a lot of the lions really struggled with it. But this year you can see most of them are looking absolutely fine, and so no, mange shouldn't be too much of a problem. It's really only manifests when you get a situation where there is look, see how grumpy she is? That cub went to where she had that wound and was trying to lick, and look, she's growling at them. She's like, don't come near me, I'm not in the mood, I'm sore, I don't want any of you licking or sniffing around where I've got my injury. And so that is a very visible warning to them, you stay away. And so it looks like now this year, after a bit more rain and the fact that there's food around that is nutritious, it seems that the mites are not affecting them nearly as much. So Kobe is 15 years old. Kobe, those injuries shouldn't affect her hunting. At the end of the day, she's still moving fairly well. It will be a bit sore and she'll be a bit stiff, but other than that, she should be absolutely fine. And when it comes to hunting and adrenaline, you'll find that she'll be able to kind of start running straight away, and the adrenaline will really kick in and it'll help her. So her injury shouldn't be too much of a stress, and like I say, she's walking fine. It's not like she's limping really badly and is not mobile in any way. She's actually moving just fine, and when adrenaline kicks in, so well, she'll be able to chase. But look at the size of that claw, massive, and that's just a little cub. You can imagine those claws are still getting bigger, and those paws are also getting bigger. And you can see baboon tail is now becoming a biting toy here in front. Look, here we go. He was playing with the baboon's tail. He was busy trying to sort of bite it and carry on. And you see how the lionesses all waited for the cubs, and now that the cubs are joining them, it looks like they're going to start moving. So we're going to try and keep up with them and try and see where they go to. Seb, I think I'm going to try and get the sun on my side, so let's try and get around them and get the sun on them themselves. Now, of course, there is one little straggler at the back here that we're waiting for to go past before we can sort of cross to where the sun side is. It seems like they're all having a big game in front. Look at all of them there. They're busy grooming themselves. So we'll get to the sun just now. Let's try and just catch up. And it seems like Mom is not very impressed by this attention. Look, she's growling at them, but they are wanting to be very affectionate. Oh, look at that. They're rubbing up on one another. There we go. Look, there's a bit of social interaction. You see, they come and rub up on Mom, and she's saying, no, 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 enough of all of this. There's too many of you now. That's how you tell the children off. Show massive canines and show your teeth, and that everybody backs off quite quickly. Isn't that cool? Wow, that was a nice little moment to see. And let's see if this one also greets. There we go. So, Justin, when the mothers choose den sites, how they do it normally is they generally will try and head into the sort of center parts of their territory. Very seldom that you'll find lionesses denning on the outskirts, because they know then there's a very real risk of not only random males coming through, but also random prides that could pose a potential threat to the den site itself. They'll also know that there's certain areas where there's going to be water, which they will need every day to be able to help hydrate them, because remember, they're going to be losing a lot of moisture through their milk. And also areas where they know that they can find big, thick, dense sections that help with being able to hide the cubs. Now, sorry, Seb, I'm just moving because the cubs are going up a fallen over tree, so I want to get us into the right spot for that. Oh no, don't go down. Stay there. So there's one just busy on the fallen over tree itself. And there you go. So that just shows you lions can climb trees. So I was saying just now that at the end of the day, they will then choose areas where it's thick, it's dense. So either rocky outcrops, areas with lots of tangled roots like drainage lines, or and there's lots of water flowing in the drainage lines and lots of rain around, then they will go into termite mounds that are slightly more elevated and use those from time to time. Oh, look at that. Isn't that amazing? Lion lying on a tree. So there we go. Everybody always thinks that lions can't climb trees. That just goes to show you that they do and will quite readily, and do it quite often actually, and particularly cubs. Cubs love to do this. They like to get up onto these trees and sort of lie there, and oh, look at that. Looks just like a leopard. Are you doing your best leopard impersonation, little one? Look at the size of that paw. That paw is already almost the size of her head. Absolutely massive paws. I think we're going to have a bit of sibling jealousy, because it looks like another one wants to come up, but there's no real space at this stage. Here comes another lioness out of the bush. So it seems like the lionesses are coming back now as well, and I think this is where they're going to rest. There's a nice big shady tree here that we're sitting under, and I think this is where they're going to go down for the day. I don't think we're going to see too much more movement from these lions today. Oh, look at that. I think the cubs have missed Mom in their half an hour since they've seen them. There we go. Lie down again. Like I say, I think they're just going to find some shade, and all of them are going to just start resting and relaxing, which is fantastic news, because it means that the lions will be here today, and well, then hopefully they're going to be hunting this evening. So it's really good news if they decide to rest here. I was a bit worried earlier that they might head northwards and head back towards Buffelshoek, but it seems like we found the resting point for the day today. So Debbie, you are saying, is there only one mom for all the cubs? No, Debbie. There is 3 different moms for the cubs that we see here today. So there is 2 older litters that were born in May of last year, and then there's 1 cub from a litter that was born in June last year. So there's 3 different litters in total with 3 different mothers, and that's why you'll find some of them growl at some of the cubs because they aren't theirs and they know who their children is, and so they growl at those ones, and they'll affectionately rub up on their own cubs and let those other cubs go to their moms and then bond with them rather. It seems like everybody's coming back except for our one that has decided to take it very easy. Now, unfortunately, I can't get any closer and get that bush out the way because they're all lying here and I don't want to actually disturb them too much. I might try just now a little bit later, see if there's not another way through, but for now it's very pleasant just sitting where we are, just watching the sort of lions all around us. It seems like everybody's kind of starting to find their little spot to take a break for the afternoon, or for the day and into the afternoon. That was a very, very cool morning with the Nkuhuma Pride nonetheless, even though it's been a bit sort of stop and start and they haven't really gotten up to too much. At least there's been interest and they've been moving and haven't just been lying absolutely flat like we sometimes do find with lions. They have this tendency to be able to lie very flat. Have you got yourself a stick? Well done, you clever boy. I think that's our little male, which wouldn't be surprising at all. He's now got a stick that he's now going to chew and make everybody jealous. And you can actually see the one in the tree has now popped its head up and saying, hang on a second, am I missing out on something by being the king of the castle here? No, eyes are closing again. It's just a stick, all is fine. That's so cool there. Yes, you are the king of the castle at this stage. And I'm surprised that no others tried to come and get up there. I think they wanted to. Had that one gone further, I reckon we would have seen more of the cubs going up there and might have ended up with 3 or 4 of them. But that one's lying in the road, unfortunately, or in the way, should we say, and therefore means that no way are they going to be able to climb and get over that. Oh. You need to. It's not as comfortable as a leopard makes it look, is it? She almost can't get her head right at this stage, and I think the back legs are slipping out a little bit. She hasn't chosen the very best place to lie because at that angle she's going to be slipping backwards a bit. If she'd just come forward, she would have found a nice flattened section which would have been far more comfortable. But yes, I suppose we found at least a somewhat comfortable branch now to lie on. So odd to see. You obviously don't see this very often at all, but the Nkuhuma Pride cubs seem to like to climb quite a bit. We've seen them a lot on trees. There we go. I think it's realized this is not the way forward. Leopards are crazy. I'm not going to lie on this any longer. And down it goes. I wonder if one of the other lionesses is also not coming back as well. Now, I believe Ali has taken a short walk around to try and see what's going on when it comes to the spotted felines of this area. And so let's go across to her and see what update she's got for us after her little morning stroll. Isn't that a beautiful picture of one of the adult females resting on one of the cubs' backs with that golden light highlighting the grass? It really is very, very, very cute indeed. So mom's obviously had a long night. It's now time to use kids as a pillow, and that's how it's going. There's another one of the cubs, and well, they all just scattered around in various sections of this area. They're not lying really that sort of packed up together. We've got Amber Eyes, who's joined us very closely. She's sitting right next to us over here. Hello, girl. And you can see starting to get quite sleepy, and then there's a couple cubs off to the side of her as well. There we go, there's one there, and I think another one somewhere behind in the grass as well. So just one female that hasn't come back from wherever they were going and whatever they were watching. So there was, as we know, 5 females, but I can only see 4 at this stage. So I don't know where the other one is. Maybe she's lying just a little bit further ahead of us because they came from that direction and started all walking back this way. But they found the perfect place. Like I say, there's a nice tree, lots of shade that's going to be here. So I'd imagine this is where we're going to settle for the day. Now, in the background, you might be hearing a sort of chopping sound of a helicopter, and well, that's the anti-poaching helicopter that's just flying up and down doing a territorial boundary patrol at this stage, and it sounds like they're just picking up some of the anti-poaching guys from not too far away, and so they're just in that area, and so there will be a bit of a noise in the background. It's probably also why They're all quite awake at this stage and all looking around as the noise of the helicopter, while it is something they would have heard before because the helicopter does actually fly quite often, particularly now around the new moon periods, and so they've heard it many times, but just still is a loud sound and one that is foreign to them, and that's why they'll always pop their heads up just to hear what's going on and make sure they know what's happening. Now, Baz, are you tired, girl? You can see those eyes are starting to get heavy, and I love when lions start to fall asleep. It's my favorite thing because you'll find the kind of eyes start to droop and the head starts to nod, and then eventually they just give up and they go flopping down flat on their side, and then that's the end of it for the day. All very sedate now, and well, why not? It's a sort of warm Tuesday morning and nice just to absorb a bit of sunshine and take it nice and easy, and I suppose they've been moving around most of the night, so perfect time just to have a little bit of a rest. But look at that coloration of those lines. You see how well it blends in with that grass. Incredible, isn't it? So Daniel from Florida, you want to know whether the lion's roar carries further in the Mara than it would in Djuma. Because of the open terrain and the way it is there, there's not very many obstructions, I would imagine, yes, that it probably does carry slightly further, particularly if the Pride is on that escarpment area going up towards the mountains, then being slightly higher and calling over that open section should carry very, very far indeed. Here we've got a lot of obstruction in terms of bushes and trees, and which will all absorb the sound vibrations, and so yes, probably find that it does actually carry a little bit further there. We'll have to ask Brent and Jamie and James, and when they're next on, and Scott, as to what they think as to whether they can actually hear the lions from a lot further away than they did here, or if they think that it's pretty similar. I would imagine it would be slightly more, though. Less obstructions would typically mean that you would be able to hear it better. Also, the terrain there being a lot flatter, they don't have these undulating areas where if the lions are sort of calling away from you, then it sounds like a little bit further than what it is. Now, what does affect lion roars, and particularly here at the moment, given that we had this cold, misty morning, would be this cold air. And you often find that the sound carries just a little bit further when it's colder. And you'll find that on really cold mornings, it's often quite difficult to locate them because your ear almost gets in tune with the sound, and then when you get a very cold morning, it carries a little bit further, and you can often sort of mistake where it actually is in comparison to a sort of warmer day that you're used to. What have you noticed? It's incredible to think that that little one on the right in 2 years' time will be the same size as that adult lioness. You can see how much growing is still needed to be done. The head is very much smaller than what the adult is. Still a lot of bulking to do around the shoulders, and well, height and length as well. All needs to sort of get bigger and bigger. So a lot of growing to do, even though these cubs are a year old and they're getting really big in comparison to when they were born. But if you look, they still have a long, long way to go until they're considered one of the adults in this area. The Amber Eyes is now sleeping. But you can also see with her, with not only the cubs but also the adult females, how rough a lion's life is. There's lots of scars all over them. I mean, you look on her shoulders there, you look on her neck area, and a lot of those scars are actually caused by the rest of the Pride, particularly when they're eating. They fight with one another and claws come out and they swat, and it's not uncommon to get a little claw digging into the head in places and causing sort of nasty wounds, and it's a tough life to be a lion. Even though from afar sometimes they look really good, you'll find that there's always scars all over them, and particularly as they get older, so these scars get more and more and more. And there's a couple around her eyes as well, and those are generally just claws that have come out and sort of hooked into the actual face of this animal and caused a little bit of an issue. So very common to see. Nice that we can be that close to be able to see them. Now, I've also noticed on Amber Eyes, she got a nice big nick out of her ear, and I've never actually really noticed that on her. I'm sure she's had it for a while because there's no blood or anything like that. But her right ear, you can see there's a nice notch there, and that's healed long time ago, but I've never really noticed it before. So for all of you that like to sort of do IDs and things that we use to ID, that notch right there is a very clear way to ID amber eyes. You've got that little V there on the right hand side, and then it comes down in quite a sharp notch that she has. So there's a way to identify just her, if it's just the back of her head, for the future reference. For those of you that will take screenshots and keep that in the ID bank, we'll be able to then use it at a later stage. You can see this little cub's also got a notch out of its ear too. I walk in the rain? Yes, they do. There is one cub in particular that has eyes just like amber eyes, quite deep coloured amber eyes, if you want to call it that. And so there is definitely at least one, and I thought I saw another one just now that's eyes are a little bit darker than the others, but it was difficult because they were walking from the sun towards us, so kind of looking into the sun doesn't really help it. You can see that's the normal honey lightish yellow coloured eye that we see in the rest of the pride, but there is one definitely that's got slightly darker eyes than the rest of them, and hopefully those will stay and continue the legacy of these rich ambered eyes that we see in Nkuhuma Pride. Amber Eyes herself has certainly become quite a famous lioness because of it, so hopefully there will be a continuation of that in the pride, and especially given that 5 of them are females, hopefully the one that does have those eyes is another female, because it would mean that she would just stay with the pride and it would carry on. Now you might find that these lions will start to wake up a little bit now. There's another vehicle that's approaching, so you might find heads popping up, but I think we're going to probably leave them for the morning. We've had a fantastic time following them around, and now that it's warming up, I want to go and maybe check towards Buffelshoek Dam, see if there's no sign of any of elephants that have maybe come down to drink, because, well, I haven't seen elephants in I can't remember how long, other than that male elephant we had the other day, but I can't remember the last time I had a really nice elephant herd sighting, and so I want to go and try and find them. I also know a lot of you have been asking about Fang and whether or not anyone's seen her, or if there's been any reports on her, and well, unfortunately not. We haven't heard anything about her, don't know where she is, but remember that Fang and her herd, it wasn't uncommon for her to have long absences from Djuma, so you'd find that Fang's herd, while it might have been seen fairly regularly, it would still sometimes go away for 3-4 weeks, a month, 5 weeks at a time, and probably has a rather large home range given the size of that herd, and so not anything to worry about or panic about that we haven't seen them. It's not a herd that spends every day on Djuma, and so over time they will move and they will eventually get back this way, and I have no doubt that we're going to see Fang in the near future, healthy and fit. Like I said, there's been no reported carcasses of elephants anywhere in the Sabi sands, and therefore we don't really have to worry too much. I think all will be okay, and should see Fang healthy and happy and moving around again. So for all of you that have been concerned and have been asking and wondering, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about at this stage, but just to give you an update that no one has seen her. I've asked around the other rangers, none of them have seen that herd in the last few weeks either, and well, we know that she's been seen way in the Kruger National Park before, so they could be deep into the Kruger, and that's why we haven't seen them at this stage. Now I also know a lot of you have tagged me in videos of a elephant with a very large tusk that grows backwards that looks very similar to Fang, but it's not her. That's not the same female. That's a female that is well known in the Kruger, and her tusk actually comes out and to the right and past her right leg. So when her tusk grows, it comes down and then it comes around her body like this, whereas Fang's tusk will bend and come straight in towards the inner sort of chest area and not onto the outside of the leg. So it's a different female. So for all of you that did comment and did post and tag me in it, and thank you very much for doing so, but it isn't the same female. It's not Fang herself, and so we'll have to keep the search up and see if we can't find her somewhere. Right, well, I think we're going to leave our girls and our cubs and our one little boy to themselves and let them enjoy the sunshine and rest for the day, because I'm pretty sure this is where their final resting place is for the morning and then into the afternoon. And well, we'll try and come and catch up with them a bit later and see if we can't find them this evening and hope that they go on the hunt. Now unfortunately they are right up against the boundary, so if they do go hunting this evening, hopefully they won't go sort of northwards and into Buffelshoek, and hopefully they'll continue southwards towards Quarantine and maybe hunt that side. We know that there was some zebras around quarantine this morning that Ali had. There's also been that baby zebra around, and so you never know, maybe the Nkuhumas will head that way and actually try their luck on quarantine this evening, which would be quite nice.